Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And today I will be talking about the latest update on the very well-known Portuguese Golden Visa. It's the 1st of August, so this is the very up-to-the-minute latest update with exactly what's happening with the scheme and what the deadlines are. So I'm going to start off with that. We're going to cut straight to the chase for those that have been on these webinars before. For those that haven't thought about this option, after I've done this update, then we will be talking about the use of golden visas, citizenship by investment in general, so that you can understand a little bit more about how all of that works. I'll go through the process, the benefits, and the last few remaining real estate options for Portugal, but also covering other jurisdictions as well. And there's a Q&A session at the end, so if you feel that you want to ask some questions along the way, don't hold back, just press the Q&A button. It's in the center of the screen if you're on Zoom, and we will do our best to answer them at the end. So as of the 1st of August, Portuguese Parliament have voted. So on the 19th of July, they will be closing some routes to the Portuguese Golden Visa scheme, but importantly, not all. So what's going? It's going to remove the bank account, the residential and commercial property options. The most popular routes are being shut, in particular the residential and commercial property routes. However, what we have to be really mindful of, nothing is certain until it's been approved by the president and then promulgated into law. That hasn't happened as yet. There is still time that this may change. But what we are quietly confident of is that the fund routes, so the venture capital investment fund route, will remain at the higher entry point of 500,000 euros, unfortunately. So there will still be a route after this this change. It's not going completely. So for those that have been sat on the fence, my message to you is that you have a few weeks remaining for a lower capital cost entry. And then after probably the middle to end of September, it's still open, but it's going to be significantly higher from a capital cost perspective. You will still get that money back. But at the end of the day, why not go for the cheaper option while there's still time remaining? There's still other routes available as well. All of them are listed on screen. But the key point really is to understand that the Portuguese Golden Visa is still open. It's business as usual at the moment, but time really is running out. So here's a little bit of an overview on what we expect is going to happen and what we know today. And what the stage that we're at now is towards the right-hand side of what you see on screen now. And really, we're now waiting for the president to make a decision on what's being voted on in Parliament. So there's three options, really. The first one will be direct ratification. And what that means is that it will come into force on whatever date the president chooses. That's option A. B will be that the president of the Republic doesn't accept the proposal, sends it back to the Parliament, says, guys, go through this, come back to me with something slightly better for whatever reason. And that might be as a result of objections from some of the independent areas of Portugal. For example, Madeira already has been very vocal that they don't want to see this in at all. The President of the Republic, or the third option, the President of the Republic, does not issue an opinion and instead sends it to the Constitutional Court. And then we have further delays while the lawyers argue over what could and shouldn't be done in the situation. So our message is, at the moment, the scheme remains open as is for residential and commercial property investment. The key point here that I've mentioned numerous times on the webinar, this is the last route into Europe where you don't have to move there. You have to only spend 1 week a year or 2 weeks every 2 years as the minimum requirement of physical presence. You need to learn a language as well. You have to be able to speak Portuguese by the end of sort of the 5-6 year period. But once this route is removed, it will still exist, but obviously at a higher price point. But it is the only route into Europe that doesn't involve you physically moving there and having to stay there. So if you want to maintain your business in Africa and other parts of the world where we have clients, this really is the most flexible route that remains. So hopefully that's all clear. So the message from us is act now before time runs out. If you do delay, it's not the end of the world. We will still be able to help you, but the capital requirements will rise probably from September onwards. Don't forget, this isn't something that gets done overnight. We have to do police clearances, a load of administration, tax ID numbers, you name it. So the more time that you give us, the better. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the developments and how they work currently, if that's of interest. But the message is, act now, you really are out of time. Okay, now that we've done the big update for the 1st of August, let me move back on to, for those that maybe haven't heard this before, a little bit about us. So who are Holborn, and what do we do in the citizenship by investment space? Well, we're a global wealth management business, been around for over 20 years. And what we do is help globally mobile expats with solutions. So that's everything from wealth management, overseas investment properties, and things like citizenship by investment. So it's not just Portugal, though we are biggest distributor of Portuguese golden visa solutions in the last year or two. We are actually active in a number of markets, and I'll talk about those in a minute. For those that have never heard about citizenship or residency and by investment, what is it? Well, it's a scheme or a route that's been open for a number of decades for various different countries around the world, and normally through 5 different routes. So if the country you're interested in gaining citizenship or residency is offering these, they normally offer a real estate investment option or a donation that you can't get back, setting up a business to encourage the economy, introduction of funds or an investment fund purchase, or bonds, so lending money to the government and in return receiving the right to stay or actually potentially even a passport. It's a growing industry. So in 2011, it was only a $2.9 billion US dollars industry. Now we're at $30 billion, so significantly larger. And there are 2 clear routes. And I'm going to explain in a minute. One is residency by investment. That's when you have the right to stay somewhere, but you don't get a new passport, or citizenship by investment, which is where you actually get a new passport and become a citizen of a new country. And for different reasons, different clients might be interested in either route. Quite often, the residency route will allow you to become a citizen of that country over a period of time. And I'll show you that now on this screen here. So this is the latest country index for all of the schemes that we work with. We are just in the process of launching the Dubai scheme. It's coming very, very soon. So this will be updated for those that are interested in Dubai. That's a fantastic residency option. And what you can see here is on the left-hand side, the citizenship scheme. So if you want to replace your passport, how long will it take you and what will it cost? The quickest route on that is a non-refundable donation, and it's normally with one of the Caribbean islands, with St. Lucia being the most popular of all of the countries that I deal with for clients. On the right-hand side is the residency route. So these are the right to stay in those countries. And if you stay there or meet the requirements over a period of time, at the end of that process, you can apply for a passport. So what you'll see there at the top on the right-hand side is the number of the different nations. Portugal has the shortest time to citizenship in the EU, so only 5 years opposed to 8 in Greece and 10 in Spain. And then if you look further down at the physical time for citizenship, only 5 weeks in total over that 5 years. So about 1 week a month, 1 week a year, as I said earlier, or 2 weeks every 2 years. So a short holiday every year for 5 years, and potentially you can secure your Portuguese or European passport is the key point. So those are the differences between residency and citizenship. There's a load of other details that I could go through now, but what my message to you is if you want to secure visa-free travel throughout the world, if you want to have the right to be able to settle somewhere else in time, CBI is something that maybe you should consider. And I'm going to talk a little bit more now about why Holborn is the preferred partner for a number of clients looking to do this route when it comes to investment as their route. Be clear, this isn't about somewhere where you would go there to live and work. So if you're looking for a working visa or a digital nomad visa, this isn't the webinar for you. There's a number of routes available, very cost-effective routes. But again, with the European point, they require you to move there. So a lot of the clients that we interact with don't want to uproot their lives. They don't want to move away from their businesses in Nigeria or South Africa or even further afield. If that's the case, I'm talking to you that you are able to secure a European European passport over time through investment. And I'm going to talk you through how that works. So where do we come in? Well, there's a number of points to think about. And we offer an end-to-end tailored solution on the Golden Visa process. We will sort everything out. And you can see here this list in front of you. It's just a number of the points from preparing all of the residence applications, dealing with looking at properties, should you wish, due diligence on the products and the developers so you know that you are safe and secure, negotiating with those developers so you don't have to learn Portuguese and learn all of the nuances of the legal system, helping with biometrics, all those sorts of things, through to opening a bank account, personal tax number for applicants, assisting with your cards and getting those to you, and then ultimately at the end, the application for citizenship. So a number of points there, we handle them all. Let's zone in though on what this is all about. The EU passport is one of the most desirable passports on the planet. It allows you to live in any of the 27 EU nations. You can see them on screen on the right-hand side now. They're the blue countries. You can retire in any of those countries as well. You can work in any of those countries, study, and also open a business across that entire region. It also allows you visa-free travel to 185 different countries around the world. So if, like many of my clients, you are listing from an African nation that maybe isn't seen as favorably as somewhere like the European Union, it will allow you to travel to the EU, to America, to the UK without having to apply for pesky visas on a regular basis. So it really does become a very easy way to move around the world globally. Well, why Portugal then? So Portugal has been rated on a number of metrics as one of the best countries in the world to consider relocating to. You don't have to, as I said before, you can if you choose to through this route. But one of the beauties of the scheme that we have in place is that your money is returned to you when you get your passport. So it allows you then to choose to relocate or retire somewhere else in Europe. But Portugal is the entryway. It's the most welcoming country for expats. The third most peaceful country in the world, and rated the best retirement destination in 2020. It also has a fantastic 10 years non-habitual tax regime exemption, so it allows you to move your life towards Portugal, restructure your affairs in a very tax-efficient manner. What it can mean is that some of your foreign income can go down to single digits from a taxation perspective, and it's something that requires specific advice, which we offer on the wealth management side. But if you haven't thought about it or aren't aware of that, again, reach out to us and we can talk you through how we can make you more tax efficient as well through this process. Also, the 12th best public healthcare system from a lot of countries, and listeners today are thinking about where they have to pay for private medical care. Moving to Portugal and the European Union in general opens up a lot more healthcare options that are fantastic and publicly funded, so you don't have to pay for everything when you retire abroad. And lastly, for those moving with families, the 16th best education system in the world. So a great opportunity for family and for your children to secure their education and their livelihoods for the future. Right, so let's move on to what is the Portuguese Golden Visa. Well, it started in 2012, so it's been going over a decade now. During that time frame, over 10,000 applications have been approved for 27,000 plus people, so an average of 2.7 to 3 per applicant. The first citizenship, so the first passports were handed over in 2018 for the clients that applied in 2012. So that has proven the point. It is a well-trodden path. It's raised over 6 billion euros in foreign direct investment. It's only open to non-EU citizens though, and you must not have a criminal record. So if you aren't from the European Union, that includes UK citizens now, and you have no criminal record, then you can apply. And it can also include your spouse, your children, and your parents. Where are the main areas in Portugal? If you're keen to know, the main capital city is Lisbon. Okay, it's the largest metropolitan city. It's an international commercial hub with over 30 million people passing through its airport every year. Porto, the second biggest city, is very focused on tourism and hospitality. It had 13 million passengers through its airport last year. And then in the south of the country, the Algarve, the very well-known beach and tourist destination. Key industry is obviously tourism and high-end service, with 9 million people passing through Faro Airport. So those are the key areas that you need to know. What's the kind of timeline and process? Well, we really carved this right down. So this slide's a little bit out of date now. This is the worst case scenario, particularly when we were doing individual title units. Unfortunately, those just aren't available anymore. They've all sold out. So the solutions that we're looking at now are co-ownership within commercial property developments. I'll talk a little bit about that now. But long story short, we can get you to a point where your application is in with the government agency SEF, SEF, and approved. And that's the key thing that we need to have in place before the president changes the law. So if we're quick, we can do that, and we are quick. We have really tailored this solution. So as long as you discuss this with us within the next week or so, it allows us to still get you through that lower capital cost route of the commercial property. So once you've got your Golden Visa application in and approved, like I say, that won't be within year one. We're aiming to get that done within a month to 6 weeks top at the moment. That is covered by our refund guarantee. So if we do miss the deadline, if the law changes and we simply aren't able to get it across the line in time, then you aren't going to lose your money. You are covered by a refund. If we then move on, once you have your Golden Visa approved, you'll get a physical plastic card, and those are valid for 2 years. After the 2-year initial one runs out, you have to renew it again twice, so year 2 and year 4, as you can see there. Once you have met the 5-year requirement, you can then apply for your passport, and that's the key point. Once that's approved, you'll receive your passport or permanent residence, if that's what you would prefer. And at year 6, you are then at the point where you're either a permanent resident or now a newly approved citizen of Portugal and the European Union. So that gives you an idea of the process and the timeline. So what do you need to receive the Portugal EU passport, if that's what you're looking for? Well, you have to have met that physical stay over the period. You need to have committed some ties and put some roots down in Portugal, so a minimum of 1 week a year over the 5 years, or 2 weeks every 2 years, and have learned Portuguese to an A2 language test standard. So a little bit more than just obrigado. You have to be able to have a little bit of a conversation, but that's something that will give you a bit of a mental stretch. I have a lot of clients that are actually enjoying their Portuguese lessons, whether they're doing it online or with tutors. So not necessarily all bad to learn another language. Once you have it, it's the 4th best passport in the world. Like I say, travel to over 185 countries visa-free, and live and work anywhere in the EU. It's a really powerful tool that not only you will have, your family will have, and then the generations behind them will have. So the grandchildren, the grandchildren's children, and so on. So you are potentially creating a legacy into Europe, one of the most affluent parts of the world, successful continents of the world for many generations to come. This is an investment in you and your family and all of the generations to come. Okay, so now that we've talked about the route to getting a Portuguese passport through the Golden Visa scheme, let's talk through where we are right now. So at the moment, with the scheme not approved by or changes not approved by the president yet, we still have these routes available, and the most popular one is number 1 there, the real estate option. So if you want to go and do a new build, that would be up to 500,000 euros. Don't forget, that's just the spend on the property that you've still got to pay for lawyers and transfer tax and other bits and pieces. So a minimum of 500,000 euros investment. Or if you refurbish an older property, something that's been around for over 30 years, and it qualifies, and that's a key point, it has to qualify, then 350,000 euros if it's done in Lisbon and Porto. Those entry points do reduce, and I've got a slide on that in a second, if you go to the lower density area. And this was a change that was made on the 1st of January 2022. So Portugal have changed this scheme along the way. It hasn't been the same all the way through, and they introduced this map. And what you can see here is the orange high density areas. The price point there was the higher entry point. And the black or gray areas there, you can see it's the lower entry point. But the other thing that's very important is that in those higher density areas, residential property was removed completely. Okay, so the places where you might want to buy a property right here, right now to go and live in have been removed. So you then run the risk of going and investing in a low density area, maybe an area you don't fully understand. You might end up overpaying for a residential property that's been marketed by a local estate agent. What if there's something up with the ground or the access points or the environmental issues? All those sort of things are risks to be aware of when you're buying residential property, particularly in low density areas. One thing I always advise my expat clients as well is don't rush to buy a property if you're moving to a new country. Rent first. If you're going to go and live in Portugal, which you may or may not choose to through this route, then go and live there for a few months first. And then once you know the areas, start to look. Don't rush in and buy something that you think you're forever home before the deadline. It's simply not going to happen. And also, you might end up in a real problem. So coming back to the cheaper entry points, if you go for a new build property, commercial only, in Lisbon or Porto, it has to be 500,000 euros. You do that new build in the Algarve, again, has to be commercial, then it's 400,000 euros. If, however, you look to do the refurbishment route at 350,000 euros, we can go to Lisbon or Porto, or if you go to the Algarve, it's 280,000 euros. So that's the one I'm talking about today. That's the route that we will lose when the president makes his decision. So it's a really low capital entry point. So shouldn't be ignored, and time is of the essence. Let me give you an example. We've got multiple developments all over, but this is an example of one of the ones that we have distributed. So refurbishment of a hotel. It's going to be a Wyndham Garden branded hotel when it's finished. It's a 280,000 euro investment plus ancillaries, and you end up with a co-ownership share. Why would you want to go and do that? Well, firstly, the VAT and the stamp duty tax, IMT, are paid by the developer, so they reduce your cash cost at the front end, so it's significantly cheaper. One of the things that they will also do is pay you rent up front for the whole 6-year period that you need. Okay, that's not something you're going to be able to do with the fund and investment option. So you get rental income back, and that goes towards things like paying for the biometrics, paying for the plastic cards, paying for the lawyers' fees, etc. So it reduces your capital costs significantly by getting that rent up front. That's one of the key things you will lose if you delay past the president's decision in September. Lastly, a mandatory buyback guarantee. Our clients love these. They're really, really safe and secure investments when you have a mandatory buyback. So at the end of the 6-year period, your investment will be bought back from you by the developer at what you paid for it. Okay, you can take your 280,000 euros of capital, and then you can use that to buy your forever home, whether that's in Portugal or somewhere else in the European Union. It allows you to do that. So don't forget, upfront rental, okay, contributions to things like VAT and stamp duty, okay, and guaranteed buyback. Those are the key points that you will lose if you do not invest in the commercial property route before it closes. And then when the investment fund option is the only route available, don't forget that capital entry is 500,000 euros, not 280,000 euros. This property will complete in Q3 2024, and we've worked with this developer for a number of years, so really, really confident on their ability to deliver. So that's an example of one of the properties, and there's plenty of others that we are working with to ensure that we have options available for you, but time is running out. So in summary, the Portuguese Golden Visa Scheme is like to remain in some form as it is right now for applications until September 2023. It's possible, unlikely, but it's possible that we might see some changes or concessions, but let's wait to see what the president says. But if you thought the scheme was closed, it's not. Act now before September to secure that lower capital cost route of 280,000 with the commercial property, with the rental upfront, with the buyback guarantees and contributions to things like stamp duty, rather than the 500,000 euro fund option. Quite happily help you with that as well if you want to have the discussion in October, November, December, but why pay more than you need to? So thank you for your time today. Hopefully I provided you with all the facts and information you need, but if you're not sure, you want to talk about those options, don't listen to the hype, speak to us. This really is the last call for action. And here you have all of my details on screen. So you can reach out to myself or to my team, and we can get a Zoom call in immediately and talk through what's available before the options are gone forever. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time listening today. I hope it's been worthwhile. We do have a short Q&A session for any questions. So if you're live now and you want to ask a specific question, then please do so. You can do so by clicking on the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to give it another few seconds or so before we wrap it up. I haven't got any questions waiting now. I'm conscious of the fact that a lot of you have seen a version of this presentation before. I've just been waiting for this update on what the president's doing. Well, here we are now. So, ladies and gentlemen, I won't waste any more of your time. I look forward to speaking to you. Thank you for that message. Yes, we will look forward to chatting to you soon, David. So all the best, and thank you very much for listening. If you need anything else, just reach out to us on those details you just saw on the screen. All the best. Take care.